Imagine this. You're having a slow Tuesday morning, still in your pajamas, sipping coffee at the kitchen table when your phone buzzes. You check it. Bam! A $1,000 deposit just showed up in your bank account. Not because you hustled overtime, not because you flipped anything on eBay, but because companies you own sent you a cut of their profits, simply for being an investor. Seems unreal, right? If you've ever looked at your paycheck and wondered how anyone actually achieves true passive income, listen up. Today, I'm John from Money Masters, and I'm breaking down the real, actionable blueprint to $1,000 per month in dividend income. Most people think there's only one narrow way to get there, but that's just not true. There are three concrete paths regular investors use to hit that $1,000 per month milestone, and each comes with its own trade-offs, timeline, and risks. But which path is fastest for you, and which looks easier but could delay your goals for years? Stay with me, because I'll walk you through all three, with the real numbers, the exact math, and the risk warnings you must see before you invest a single dollar. Let's pause right here and lay down our ground rules. This is for educational purposes only, not individualized advice. And results absolutely depend on your personal situation and broader market conditions. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. And you should always consult a licensed financial professional before making any serious money moves. All right, let's get to work. Most people believe you need some Wall Street magic or a trust fund to live off dividends. But the math is a lot more accessible than you think. Yet the devil's in the details. And if you chase after the highest numbers without understanding the risk, you could end up burning years of hard work in a matter of months. That's why we're diving into a three-path framework today, so you can see not just the upside, but the potholes and speed bumps too. Quick overview before we break them down one by one. Path 1 is the conservative blue-chip dividend fund strategy, boring but reliable. Path 2 is the real estate route, leveraging REITs. Path 3 is the specialized high-yield stock lane, which promises big payouts with bigger risks. Each has a different capital requirement, typical yield, and pacing. I'll benchmark each to the same target, $1,000 per month, or $12,000 a year. And after we finish, stick around. I'll show you a real-life case study of how one investor, Sarah, used these strategies and how her results unfolded over nearly a decade, bumps and all. Sound good? Great. Let's start with Path 1, the blue-chip dividend fund approach. Think of this as the solid, steady backbone of long-term dividend investing. Instead of betting on flashy new stocks, you pick huge, established companies. Think utilities, old-school retailers, consumer staples, the ones that keep the lights on and the shelves stocked during calm and stormy markets alike. The easiest way for most people to access this is through a broad ETF, like the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF, VIG, or Schwab United States Dividend Equity ETF, SCHD, both of which focus on stable companies with reliable dividend histories. As of most recent data, conservative, diversified dividend funds tend to yield about 2.5% to 3% annually. Let's use a rounded 3% for our math. The magic formula is simple. Needed investment equals annual income goal divided by dividend yield. So, to generate $12,000 per year, $12,000 divided by 0.03, which is 3% as a decimal, comes out to $400,000. Yes, that's a big chunk of money. If you're blinking at that number, don't click away. Almost nobody starts with $400,000. Instead, let's break it down further. If you build toward that number gradually, you harness the power of time and compound growth. More on that in the case study. But first, a quick visual of how the numbers stack up. If you invest $100,000 at a 3% yield, you'd make $3,000 a year, or $250 per month. Double that to $200,000. You're at $500 per month. Keep stacking and reinvesting, and eventually, you approach the full $1,000 per month goal. Why do most experts suggest using these blue-chip funds? Because the companies inside are dividend aristocrats. Think Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble. Businesses that have paid and raised dividends for 25 consecutive years or more, even through recessions. The reliability is about as close as you get to financial gravity, not immune to downturns, but historically way less volatile than chasing the latest hot yield. But there's a reason this approach is called conservative. The yields rarely blow your mind, and it takes time, sometimes decades, to build up that kind of capital. Now, this brings me to my first micro call to action. Quick check. Are you already working towards a blue-chip dividend approach, or considering it? Foos. Drop a comment below with your experience or concerns. Our Money Masters community learns just as much from each other as from me. But what if you don't have 20 years to build to $400,000? Or you'd like to lower the starting capital needed? So, that leads us right to path 2. The real estate route. REITs, real estate investment trusts, are like getting landlord benefits without the midnight plumbing emergencies. By law, REITs have to pay out most of their profits as dividends to investors, which means average yields are usually higher, often between 4% and 6%. Let's take the midpoint and use a 5% yield for our math. Applying that same formula, $12,000 per year divided by 0.05 comes out to $240,000 needed. That's almost half the capital required for the first path, at least for the same $1,000 per month goal. Popular REIT ETFs, like Vanguard Real Estate ETF, VNQ, or Schwab United States REIT ETF, SCHH, offer diversified exposure, reducing some single property risk. Direct investment in individual REITs could give you even higher yields. But watch out, not all REITs are created equal. Some specialize in offices, others in apartments, warehouses, or shopping malls. And those niches respond differently to interest rates and broader economic swings. Now, an important warning. While REITs can turbocharge yield, they're also very sensitive to interest rate changes and real estate market cycles. During boom times, those dividends feel rock solid. But a downturn can pinch profits or even slash dividends quickly. This is where investors sometimes get caught off guard, expecting smooth sailing and ending up in stormy waters. So if you do go down this path, diversification, both across different REITs and alongside other asset classes, is critical to minimize risk. That leads us to a classic pattern break. Let's pause and look at the table so far. Blue chip funds, $400,000 required, 3% yield. Very stable but slow. REITs, $240,000 required, 5% yield. Riskier, but could get you there faster. And now, let's unlock path 3. The high-yield stock strategy. This is for viewers who want to supercharge return and are willing to stomach much greater volatility and potential disappointment. Here, You're looking at individual stocks or focused funds offering 6% yields, 7%, sometimes even 8% or 10%. The appeal is obvious. That juicy yield means you'd need as little as $150,000 to $200,000 to reach $1,000 per month in income. But here's the sobering reality. Those high yields often come with red flags the size of billboards. Sometimes a company's yield is high because its stock price dropped after business trouble. Not because profits are surging. If the business is struggling, that large dividend could vanish almost overnight, leaving you with a double whammy, lower payout, and a potentially falling share price. Chasing yield is like sprinting laps in circles, exhilarating at first, but it almost never brings you across the finish line the way compound, sustainable growth does. If you do use the high-yield path, never put all your eggs in one or even a few fragile baskets. Diversify across industries. Scrutinize payout ratios. If a company is paying out more than it earns, danger. And set strict risk controls. Never invest what you aren't truly comfortable losing. Now pause here for another retention boost. Are any high-yield stocks or funds on your watch list right now? Or have you gotten burned chasing a sky-high yield before? Drop a money bag emoji in the comments, and let's help each other dodge those traps. All right, time for a curiosity loop. You might be asking, which path actually gets you to $1,000 per month the fastest? Especially if you don't have a huge lump sum to start. Here's where things get interesting. See? Nobody starts at the finish line. In reality, most people build their dividend portfolios over years, sometimes decades, using a process called dollar-cost averaging. Investing small chunks, maybe $500 or $1,000 a month, over and over. No matter what the market is doing, it means you don't have to wait to hit $400,000 before you start earning. Even a $20,000 investment at 3% gives you $600 a year, or $50 per month. Small, but a start, and those dividends get reinvested, snowballing your gains over time. Pattern break. Let me take you out of theory and show you a real scenario. Meet Sarah, a real investor. Her details anonymized. But the journey is 100% real. Sarah started with $50,000 in a mix of blue-chip dividend funds and one REIT ETF, targeting a blended yield around 3.7%. She committed to adding $1,000 per month and reinvested every single dividend along the way. In the first year, her $50,000 returned about $1,850 in dividends. Not a game changer, but not nothing. She reinvested all of it. By year 5, thanks to market gains and those relentless contributions, her portfolio had grown to just under $120,000, yielding a little over $4,400 annually in dividends. Nearly $367 per month. By year 9, Sarah had crossed the $1,000 per month mark, with a portfolio at $338,000 and her yield, boosted both by reinvestment and organic dividend increases from the funds themselves, supplying $12,500 per year, or just over $1,040 per month. No windfalls, no risky bets, just consistent, disciplined investing, reinvestment, and patience. Of course, her returns varied year to year. Markets had some up and down years. A couple of her funds adjusted their yields, and her REIT dropped its payout by 15% during a tough real estate year. She stuck with her plan, diversified, and leaned on the reliability of blue chips to balance out the riskier pieces. Curious how much you would need, starting from your current numbers, Lita. I built a simple Google Sheets dividend income calculator for this community. The link's down below in the description. Grab it for free and plug in your own numbers to see your roadmap to $1,000 per month, or your number, whatever that is. Let's zoom back out and review the risk trade-offs before you pick a lane. With blue-chip funds, the risk is mainly market volatility. Prices rise and fall. But dividends usually stay pretty steady, though not immune to cuts during deep recessions. With REITs, the risk is higher. Dividends can fluctuate based on real estate markets, interest rates, even things like pandemics or policy changes. With high-yield stocks, risk ramps up if the payout is unsustainable. Your dividend can be slashed at any time, and the share price may not recover. Chasing yield might seem logical, but all the data shows that a blend of stability and reasonable payouts will, over time, outpace the roller coaster of pure yield chasing. Micro call to action. Have you calculated your own target portfolio using real numbers? Guys, screenshot the table overlay on screen and compare it to your plan. Let's see who's closest to their target, or who's ready to start building. Now, we have to talk timing and taxes, the two biggest variables people overlook. First, timing. You don't need $400,000 or $240,000 up front. Consistency crushes lump sums for most regular investors. If you're adding $800 to $1,000 a month over 10 to 15 years, plus reinvesting your dividends along the way, you're tapping into the power of compound growth and rising payouts. A strategy proven over decades by thousands of everyday savers. Second, taxes. Uncle Sam, or your local government if you're outside the United States, generally wants a cut of your dividends if you hold them in a regular brokerage account. Some dividends are qualified, taxed at lower capital gains rates. But others are ordinary and taxed as regular income. That means your $1,000 per month in gross dividends might only turn into $700 or $800 after taxes. If you want to keep more, look into tax-advantaged accounts, IRAs, Roth IRAs, or 401k in the United States. In these vehicles, your dividends can compound tax-free, or at least tax-deferred, until you withdraw in retirement. There are caveats, sir. You can't usually tap these funds penalty-free until a certain age. Typically 59.5 in the United States. So plan around your intended retirement horizon. Pattern break. Let's do an interactive calculation. If you invested $50,000 at 3%, you'd see $1,500 in dividends in year 1. But if you reinvest, by year 10, that snowballs to nearly $2,000 per year. And by year 20, over $2,700, without adding another cent. But if you steadily add $1,000 per month, you could cross a $400,000 portfolio and earn $1,000 per month in as little as 12 to 15 years, depending on markets and reinvestment. That's the math Sarah followed, and you can run it too, with the download below. Now, a big curiosity loop as we hit the home stretch. Earlier, I mentioned most experts favor total return, meaning you don't rely solely on dividends, but also let your investments grow in value, selling a few shares each year when you need cash. Why? Because companies that don't pay high dividends often use their profits to expand, raising stock prices faster. If you focus on growth, you might be able to generate the same $1,000 per month lifestyle from only $200,000 in assets, selling predictable chunks every year, based on the 4% rule or similar withdrawal strategies. But There's a trade-off. That means relying on selling principal, not just living off income. And you face the same market risks and potential year-to-year fluctuations. There's no single right answer. It depends on your psychology, your time horizon, and how steady you want your cash flow to feel. Micro call to action. If your passive income goal isn't $1,000 per month, what is it? And what's your biggest blocker right now? Let's start a real conversation in the comments. Money Masters is all about helping you break through those bottlenecks. Final critical disclaimers. No approach is risk-free. Dividend yields aren't fixed. Stock prices fluctuate. And there are no guarantees in investing. All numbers here are for illustrative, educational use only. Always consult a professional for your personal financial planning. You need a tailored approach. To recap the three main paths, think of this as your map. Path 1, blue chip dividend funds, $400,000 goal, 3% yield. Slow and steady, very reliable. Path 2, real estate trusts, REITs, $240,000 goal, 5% yield. Higher risk but faster route, real estate exposure. Path 3, high-yield stocks or funds, $150,000 to $200,000 goal, 6 to 8% yield. Highest risk, big swings, not recommended for most as a single strategy. Here. Layer consistent monthly investment, compound with reinvestment, and leverage tax-advantaged accounts where possible. Ultimately, the plan that fits you best matches your risk comfort, your timeline, and your need for steady income versus long-term growth. Quick recaps. To earn $1,000 per month in passive dividends, most investors take one of three main paths. The blue chip fund route targets a stable 3% yield and requires roughly $400,000 invested, but it's the steadiest and most time-tested. The REIT lane can get you there faster, with a 5% yield needing about $240,000. Just watch out for property cycles and rate changes. The high-yield stock option can, on paper, require as little as $150,000 to $200,000 for 6 to 8% yields, but comes with the highest risk of dividend cuts and capital loss. Real-world results. Like Sarah's patient 9-year journey from $50,000 starter funds to $1,000 per month show that steady contributions, reinvestment, and diversification work. Even when the markets throw curveballs, what should you do next? Step 1. Download the free dividend income calculator in the description and input your own starting number. Target yield and monthly contributions. Step 2. Decide which path fits your risk, comfort, and time horizon. Step 3. Commit to consistent investing, even if it's $100 per month now. Micro steps beat inaction every time. Step 4. Reassess every year, with special focus on reinvestment and avoiding dividend traps. Step 5. If you haven't already, open a tax-advantaged account if eligible, or at least work with a pro to optimize your taxes. You can start seeing your early dividends within months, even on small investments. And if you stick to the plan, your portfolio's snowball effect could put $1,000 per month in reach within a decade, or less, just like it did for Sarah. But the first milestone is consistency, not the finish line. For more step-by-step plans, and to see which index funds and dividend payers are on my radar, complete with historical return breakdowns and risk profiles, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop your top passive income question in the comments below. The best ones will be featured and answered in my next video. If you're building along, share this with someone else aiming for financial freedom. They'll thank you for it. One last thing, everything here is for educational purposes, not financial advice. Investment returns are never guaranteed. Always consult a qualified financial advisor for decisions specific to your circumstances.